5 mysterious people throughout history. First up, Ed Leedskalnin. This is one of my favorite stories to talk about. Ed Leedskalnin is the creator of the Corral Castle in Florida, a museum/outdoor art exhibit of large limestones. What makes this story so fascinating is the fact that these stones weighed an accumulated weight of 1,100 short tons, and Ed Leedskalnin claimed to have set up the entire exhibit by himself without any help whatsoever. Born January 12th, 1887, Edward would grow up to be a small stature man with a sickly disposition. Despite all this, Ed would construct a modern architectural masterpiece dedicated to his first fiancée, who broke off their engagement. Ed lived his life as a recluse. He spent most of his time alone, working on the Corral Castle. One story goes that Ed was seen moving the large limestones using a device he created that emitted sound waves. The kids that saw this were unreliable sources, but the only sources nevertheless. Whenever Edward was asked how he managed to move the heavy stones, he would tell people he knew how the Egyptians built the pyramids, which is something modern science can't explain to this day. Edward Leedskalnin passed away December 7th, 1951. No one has ever figured out how he moved the limestones, and no such recreation has been successfully attempted. Next up, Sarah Winchester. Wife to William Winchester, Sarah is most known for her construction of what is now called the Winchester Mystery House. Born in 1839, Sarah was well educated, sensible, and a supporter of humane causes, such as animal rights. Between 1866 and 1898, Winchester would lose many family members, including her husband in 1881. She inherited a fortune, but at what cost? Each loss took a toll on Sarah no amount of money could ever replace. Despite all her grief, Sarah would surround herself with family and caring employees for many years following her husband's death, until she passed away September 5th, 1922. So you might be asking, where's the mystery in this whole story? Well, I'm glad you asked. First, let's establish one unique fact. William Winchester left behind his family's company, the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, to Sarah following his death. The Winchester Repeating Arms Company is responsible for manufacturing the most deadly modern weapon of that time, the repeating rifle. Before the repeating rifle, firearms were limited to single shots. Now, rumor has it that all the people killed with the Winchester rifle would haunt the person who benefited from the creation of such a dangerous weapon. Since her husband was no longer alive, the spirits would torment Sarah. Winchester was instructed by a medium to construct a house for those spirits and never complete the project, or she would be unalived by these spirits. The Winchester Mystery House features many oddities, such as doors that lead to walls, stairways that lead to nowhere, and trapdoors, amongst other things. The theory goes, the spirits would have such a hard time navigating the home, they would never be able to harm Mrs. Winchester. Next up, Rasputin. One of the most mysterious people in all of history, Grigory Rasputin was a Russian holy man. Quite ironic when you think about all the unholy things this guy is known for. with a murky origin and reputation. Born January 1869, Rasputin was the child of peasants who would go on a spiritual journey that began in 1897. Through the early 1900s, he became acquainted with the last emperor of Russia, Nicholas II, around 1906. This is pretty much where the legend of Rasputin is born. Some believed Rasputin had the ability to perform miracles, while others called him a snake oil salesman. Probably the most egregious claim about Rasputin was his sexually deviant behavior. There's an old tale that says Rasputin was the son of a sex demon, and he himself could woo any woman and use that ability on the Tsarina. The biggest mystery surrounding Rasputin has to be how he met his end. Most are content accepting the simple account of him being assassinated by a group of Russian elites for his abhorrent, fraudulent facade. However, if you're like me, you prefer things to have a little bit more drama. The dramatic version goes something like this. After all his years cozying up to the Tsar and sleeping with every woman he could get his hands on, a group of elites, the disgruntled husbands, invited Rasputin to a party, the last party he will ever have. These men poison his food and his wine, and watch as this quote-unquote monster finishes everything without any signs of sickness. When the poisoning doesn't work, they resort to the basics and just shoot the guy, after which they put his body in a sack and throw it in a freezing river. Now that sounds way more interesting than some upset nobles. Next up, Nostradamus. Okay, so many of us know Nostradamus as the astrologer who gave prophecies depicting future events. I guess you could say Nostradamus was one of the most famous fortune tellers. Born in December 1503, Nostradamus would go on to attend multiple universities, attempting to become a physician. Nostradamus is no stranger to hardship. His goal of becoming a doctor would be interrupted by a battle with one of the most deadly outbreaks in human history, the Black Plague. Nostradamus would even lose his family to the plague. He would pass away July 1566. So, what are some of the predictions he's most known for making? No one can know for certain how Nostradamus made all of his predictions. However, his process for making these predictions was actually quite systematic. Nostradamus would use pieces of historical text, past events, astrological systems, and even the Bible to make his predictions. Believers of Nostradamus consider his predictions to be authentic and were correct in predicting the rise of Hitler, as well as Napoleon, and events such as the Great Fire of London and Hiroshima. Now, he still has his fair share of skeptics. The disbelievers say Nostradamus never specifically predicted anything, and his predictions were always vague enough to fit any narrative if somebody argued it enough. Last up on this list, Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau was born September 10, 1810 and passed away June 15, 1881. Marie was well known for being an herbalist and voodoo practitioner. When people hear the word voodoo, they think of black magic, curses, etc. However, this negative, harmful depiction of voodoo couldn't be more false. That form of witchcraft is called obeah and is often confused with voodoo. Marie Laveau was born a free woman and was the child of free parents. She lived a long, successful life, and many diverse people showed up at her funeral, including highly influential socialites. All this probably makes you question why I included her in this list. For all intents and purposes, she seems like just an average spiritual person. However, there are a lot of controversial details about Miss Laveau. For example, Did you know there's a supposed ritual that would be performed at her resting place where you would draw 3 X's on the tomb, spin around 3 times, yell out your wish, and if it was granted, return with an offer? I don't know about you, but I only know of one reason why you would do things in threes. Another insane story about Miss Marie. There was a rock band that attempted to exhume her body. Why would some musicians want to dig up the body of a supposed magical wish granter? I can only think of one reason. The last thing I will say about Marie is this. After her funeral, there were multiple accounts of her being seen in the community. Maybe that American Horror Story character played by Angela Bassett wasn't as fictional as we thought. That's gonna do it for me. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I make a new video every day, and it is always something horror related. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.